Hello, it's me, Zoti from the Light Collective. Come on in here, get comfortable. Let's get started. The Light Collective, the Light Collective, the Light. And welcome back. How good it is to see you all again. We are going to get straight into it, beautiful people. And I wanted to have a quick conversation with the people of the light regarding the plane crash that occurred involving a military aircraft. I was looking into it just a little bit and I wanted to share some of the things that I discovered regarding it. And perhaps with the help of the Light Collective, we can build on this information and see if we can get the truth, the full truth. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you guys a couple things that I found in looking through some of this stuff regarding this plane crash. Okay. So, let's take a look. Give 1 second. I'm going to make myself small. I don't want me to be really. Okay. And make me even smaller just to make sure you guys can see. I don't want to be blocking anything. All right. So let me share. Okay. I want to go through this stuff really, really quick. Okay. And hopefully you guys can follow me a little bit or a lot of it. Okay. Oh, let me get rid of this. I think I can. There we go. So, as we all know by now, there was a woman on the plane that crashed who was a DC civil rights attorney and from a former intern for Michelle Obama. Okay. So we know by now that and her name was Kiah Duggins, this beautiful, beautiful woman right here. Okay. This beautiful woman right here is who she was. Her energy it still persists. Energy never dies. So this beautiful woman was on the plane. She's a 30-year-old civil rights lawyer and former Miss Kansas contestant. Okay. And like I said, she's said to have been brave and beautiful according to her family members. She dedicated her life to fighting justice. A lot of people really get by now, and I just, again, want to honor this beautiful woman, her intellect, her brilliance. I heard her speak in some video clips, and she just is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Um, just vibrant, bubbly personality. From what I saw. And like I said, brilliant, emphasis on brilliant, extremely smart, extremely articulate. Um, she was on this plane. So when I saw this, I said, okay, interesting. Because everyone, I think, not everyone, but a lot of people at this point are looking at the crash like, yeah, I don't know, right? At this point, it's like, what do you mean? Right? So again, this was the crash because there's been a few. This was the one that was involving the Army Black Hawk helicopter on January 29th. If you don't know, this beautiful woman, Kiah Duggins, went to Harvard University. She went to Harvard University. I want you guys to remember the school name Harvard, because this is going to come up quite a bit in what I'm about to show you. She went to Harvard. You know who else went to Harvard? Who she interned for? Michelle Obama. And so did her husband. Harvard. Something about Harvard, right? Right. So she went to Harvard. Okay, she was on this plane. She was killed. She was a civil rights activist. When we look up the Obamas, I looked up, if they said anything about her when they found out? Because, I mean, how could they not have found out? Did they say anything, any condolences? I didn't see anything. Let me know down in the comment sections if you guys have seen anything. I haven't. Um, Wait, you know what I see right here? It says Michelle Obama should give the eulogy for Kiah. She was her. I don't know if this is just a comment. I don't have a lot of the social media platforms, guys, so I can't check some of these sites, but this looks like a comment. But I think this might be. It says Michelle Obama should give the eulogy of Kiah Duggins. She was her intern, so that's saying that she should. So that's a should, not she is. So that sounds like that could be just someone stating their opinion. But from what I saw, I didn't see any comments. I figured if I searched how I was searching, I would see something. Um, but I didn't. I didn't see anything. And I thought that was odd. But I think it's also interesting that Michelle Obama and Barack Obama also went to Harvard. So again, the emphasis on Harvard. When we go and we look at some recent news about Harvard, we see that we have this headline here from the Harvard Crimson. Harvard outsources program to identify descendants of those enslaved by university affiliates and lays off internal staff. So basically, Harvard discovered that there was at least 70 people who were enslaved on the grounds of the school, of the institution. And they had created this $1 million, it says right here, $1 million incentive called the Legacy of Slavery Initiative. And the task of this initiative was to identify the direct descendants of these 70 people who were slaves on these grounds. And the slave owners of said slaves were people who were directly connected to Harvard, i.e., they worked there, they were presidents, they were, staff at some point, they went, so on. They were affiliated with Harvard to some degree and pretty deeply at that. And so they created this $1 million Legacy of Slavery initiative to find the direct descendants of those slaves. Okay. This was fairly recent. Okay. Now, when we look at this headline, we see that it says Harvard outsourced that program to someone that's not internal, because it says here they laid off the internal staff. So with this initiative, who they assigned to complete this initiative was internal staff members. Okay. Internal staff members. For some reason, they said, you know what? We don't want the internal staff. We're going to fire them and we're going to go seek someone outsourced, meaning not internal, external. When we look at esoteric knowledge, which just basically means a small group of people know something. And esoteric is the opposite of exoteric. Exoteric means the opposite. It's a large group of people know about something. So when I use the term esoteric, or if I reference esoteric, that's what I mean it by definition. Though I get some people may affiliate it with something that's dark, and not dark, but nefarious. And I don't want to confuse anyone. I'm using it by definition. In esoteric knowledge or teachings, there is something called the trivium. And the trivium is essentially 3 steps, which is knowledge, understanding, or as we say over here, understanding, and wisdom. Knowledge is necessary in order to gain data. Gaining the data is not enough. You have to be able to gain the data, process the data, and then be able to understand, or as we say, understand the data. The question is, how do you get to understanding the data? Well, you have to understand the why. Who, what, when, where, why, how, right? These questions are pivotal, important, but are crucial to get to the crux of the matter, the heart of the matter, the understanding, the understanding. And once you get that, you can move on to wisdom. And wisdom is what leads you to the sacred action. And action is how you express the knowledge that you gain, the understanding that you gain into the human experience, into your reality. And the better your understanding, the better your knowledge base, the better decision makings you'll make when it comes to your actions. I say all that to say that understanding the why of things is really, really important. So when we look at this situation, we have to ask why, because we have the knowledge that this right here, going online and asking these questions into Google or whatever search engine, is access to the knowledge. Now we have to process the knowledge and ask the questions like why? Why? Who? Where? When? How? Right? So as we do this with this storyline, we get further down because the next question is, okay, they laid off their internal staffs, and you guys can go online and look at some clips of the internal staff that were being interviewed by the news. It was on the news at one point, and there's some of the internal staff who were talking about it, so you guys can look it up. But we're not going to do that right now. So the question is, who did they outsource it to and why? They outsourced it to these people right here. American ancestors. American ancestors. This is who they outsourced it to. American ancestors. Okay. And the next question is, well, why? Why these people? Why these people particularly? Okay. And so I looked into when was this even founded? When was this started? This American Ancestors start date. When I put in American Ancestors start date into Google, okay, this comes up. New England Historic Genealogical Society, founded in 1845. Okay. Down here, it says the New England Historic Genealogical Society is the oldest and largest genealogical society in the United States, founded in the year 1845. This organization provides family history services through its staff, scholarship, website, educational opportunities, and research center. Right? And then you wonder, well, why would this come up when I'm looking up American Ancestor start date? If we look right here to who the president and CEO of this organization is, which again, I searched this right here, American Ancestor start date. This came up, which we'll come back to this coming up, right? I'm like, okay, this came up. Why? But if you scroll down, look what you start to see on the search. You start to see American ancestors. And then over here, more importantly, it says that this was founded in 1845, but the president CEO is this person, Ryan J. Woods. I wanted to see who's the CEO, president of this organization. You click on that. What do you know? It's this guy, Ryan J. Woods. Ryan J. Woods is the CEO president of the New England Society. Okay? This is their emblem. I wanted to show this really quick. And this right here, in memoriam majorum, means in memory of our ancestors. If you look at this, it looks like a hand. It appears to be a hand coming down from the sky, handing down something. Okay? But this person, right, is the CEO of the American Ancestors organization, who now has the task of this $100 million legacy of slavery initiative. And it just so happens when you search American ancestors, okay, I'll do it right here for you guys. Start date. Okay, American ancestors start date. Again, see where it brings us? Right back here. But we can link this now to the American Ancestor Association. Why? Because This guy's name, who's on their website, is linked to this organization that was founded back in 1845. Okay? Different names, affiliations. Okay? Significant affiliations. And as you can see, of course, right down here, it says AmericanAncestors.org is the website for this organization. This New England Historic Genealogical Society's website link right here is AmericanAncestors.org. So they're connected. This is who now has control over this $100 million initiative to find the descendants, the direct descendants of these 70 people who were enslaved on these grounds here. Harvard's grounds. Now, all right, we see that. So now when I go back over here to this guy and I was reading down here, I noticed a couple of things. It says down here in 2022, Ryan was elected an honorary life fellow of the Massachusetts Historical Society. He also was honored by the New England Society in the city of New York, founded in 1805. And he was given the Townsend Award in recognition of outstanding achievement representing the finest attributes of the New England character. Okay? So again, we're seeing this says what? The New England Historic Genealogical Society. It says here that he was honored by the New England Society in the city of New York. So I thought that was a stark similarity in terms of New England. This is also New England, society in New England, a society in New England. It almost sounds like the New England Society, is the same thing, but just based in New York. This one was founded in 1805. So, of course, we go take it to who founded that, the New England. So this right here website is the New England Society of New York. And if you scroll down here, you'll see that it was founded, the first president, it says, was someone by the name of James Watson. James Watson. Okay. And it says the early activities were focused on two areas: social programs such as the annual festival commemorating the landing of pilgrims, and charitable works such as distributing firewood to needy New England families in New York. But the key there is that they were commemorating the landing of pilgrims. Okay, they were commemorating it. This is what this organization does. They commemorate the pilgrims. And this guy who now is the CEO of the company that has this slave initiative in their hands was honored by this New England Society of the city of New York. The same people who honor the pilgrims. Now, is this beginning to sound like something that is honest? Is this beginning to sound like something that is more nefarious? Because how are you going to tell me that someone who's being honored by a corporation who honors the ones who did the enslaving is going to go and actually find the descendants of these people and do honest work? Or was it more likely that the internal staff that was already on the job was probably more likely to do honest work, but you guys didn't want that? You guys wanted someone who would maybe work it in your favor? Not sure, but this sounds a little suspicious to me now. Sounds a little suspicious to me now because, like I said, this guy who was the owner, not the owner, but the CEO of American Ancestors, was honored and awarded by the New England Society in the city of New York. And like I said, it says right here that they started out commemorating annual festivals to commemorate the landing of the pilgrims. Okay. And here's what, I'll tell you what some of them look like. Okay. This is, you guys see this, right? Okay. Okay. All right. So these people, this guy here, who now has this initiative to find the descendants of slaves, is awarded by an organization who look like they did some enslaving. Look at this. I don't know what this is going on over here. These people look, it just okay. But again, the key is this organization was commemorating the landing of Pilgrims, the one in which this guy is now. All right, we get it, right? Okay, we get it. So now James Watson, first president, I had to look up who James Watson was. Now here's where it gets a little interesting because when I Googled or searched James Watson, this James Watson came up. I searched James Watson. I searched James Watson, New England Society. And when I searched that, this James Watson came up. Matter of fact, let me see if I could do it again. So you guys see what I mean. Look, James Watson, New England Society. I just showed you guys that we were on the New England Society website. I showed you guys that the first president was James Watson, right? So I Google if you Google James Watson New England Society, okay? See, this one keeps coming up. This James Watson, okay, comes up in relation when I search this. Okay. So that's how I even got here. But here's the interesting thing. When we go, all right, here we go. So this James Watson, okay, he's the one that came up for me when I was looking for who this James Watson was. Interestingly enough, I believe that this is connected because this James Watson comes up a lot when you're searching the James Watson that is connected to the New England societies. For some reason, this James Watson keeps coming up somewhere on the search. Okay. Now it's very difficult for me to find a direct picture. I need a picture or some sort of connection to this James Watson's father. I did find on Amazon that there was a book I believe this James Watson has with his father, and I think there is an image, but I think that there could potentially be a connection with their lineage, their bloodline, this James Watson and the James Watson that is the actual founder of this New England Society of New York. This James Watson just happened to come up, but I think it's interesting because when I was looking through it, this James Watson, same name, okay, which I think I don't think it's a coincidence that this comes up this way, and I'll show you why. Because this James Watson taught where? Harvard. So when you, like I said, when I was searching, this James Watson kept coming up. So I personally think that there's a connection in the family between this James Watson and the James Watson that's the founder of um, the New England Society of New York. But I'll get back to that James Watson in a second. So this James Watson came up, and I thought it was interesting. For one, that he went to Harvard. For two, that he's known for the double helix DNA, things of that nature. I also think it's interesting that he studied something called what was it called? Dealing with crystallinography, I believe it is. It's called. uh it's escaping me right now, but basically they study atoms and the arrangement of the atoms, and they determine certain things based on what they see. And they use the term lattice when they were just when they were discussing what studying this crystallography is essentially. And the fact that they use the term lattice I thought was really interesting, because lattice is a term that you would know if you were researching the hologram theory and the simulation theory. You would have heard lattice before, or in that esoteric knowledge or data. You probably would have heard the term lattice before, and you would know that that is actually connected to, if you're in the thinking of the simulated holographic nature of reality thinking, which I think is absolutely, uh, yes, there's something to that. Then his study of the of lattice, like using that is extremely significant. I made a video previously that this what's going on in this age has a lot to do with the indigenous people of this land. I said it has a lot to do with the Great Mother, and it has a lot to do with the indigenous people of this land. I also made a video saying that indigenous people have abilities. Okay. And I, all of these things connect. Okay. All of these things connect. But let me not digress. This James Watson went to Harvard. He's the one that comes up when I'm looking at, when I'm trying to find the other James Watson. Let me show you guys the other James Watson. Okay. This is the whole crystallography. What was I saying? Crystallography? Crystallography. Crystallography, which is a branch of science that deals with discerning the arrangement and bonding of atoms in crystalline solids. Okay. And in case you don't see the significance there, humans have crystalline structures. Okay. Humans are not made of crystals, but we have crystalline structures. Crystalline structures in the human body include bones, teeth, eyes, inner ears, muscles, and insulin. Okay. So this is why him, this crystalline, studying this, them figuring these things out, trying to figure things out, how to manipulate these things, is extremely interesting. That this comes up when I'm searching this, how I'm searching it, right? It's related. So let me show you guys. We're gonna come back. Where is he at? Right here. Uh, this guy, here he is. So this is the James Watson, I think, that is the one who is the founder of the New England Society. It says right. Let's see. Yeah, right here. And founding president of the New England Society of New York. Okay. So this is the image here they have. And then when we go down, we see the spouse. And then we see there's one son, James Talcott Watson. Okay. And I think when I go there, right here, James Talcott Watson, it doesn't really give me much. It says he was a merchant. This Claremont Livingston's almost certainly of the Claremont Livingstons. Okay. So this is not giving me too much information. It kind of stops right here, no image. Okay. And so I thought that was interesting. Very, very interesting. So they give this so you guys see both of the James Watsons now. Okay. That comes up when you're searching this New England society. They just so happen to have the same name, right? But they're coming up so closely together. They have the same name. You're going to tell me there's no family association? I don't know. I think there might be. Okay. Now let's look into this James E. Watson one that they keep giving all this credit to, the DNA, giving him all the credit to discovering the molecular structure of DNA and all this jazz matazz, right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, when we go over here, it says, I was trying to find who his father was, like any more information on his relatives and things of that nature. And so it says he's James Dewey Watson. The one that went to Harvard is James Dewey Watson. His dad is James D. Watson. This one is just James Watson. So if you guys want to be up for the task to see if we can connect these two James Watsons, this one he was a former New York senator. He was a former New York senator and the founding president of the New England Society of New York. If we could get him to connect him to the James Watson that won the Nobel Peace Prize, that'd be great. Even though I think that there's enough connections, but I'm going to continue to show you guys how I feel that way or why I feel that way. Before we do any more connecting, I want to tell you guys a little bit more about this particular James Watson, the one that gets all they're trying to give all the credit to discovering all the stuff about the DNA. Okay, which I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give him all the credit for it. I just think there's too many lies involved with what I'm seeing here. Okay, so this guy is pretty interesting when you look at some of the things that, mind you, this person got a Nobel Peace Prize. A Nobel Peace Prize, went to Harvard, taught at Harvard, all this stuff. This person said, this James Watson that gets all this credit for the DNA and studied what we were just talking about. At a conference in the 2000s, Watson suggested a link between skin color and sex drive, hypothesizing that dark-skinned people have stronger libidos. His lecture argued that extracts of melanin, which give skin its color, have been found to boost subjects' sex drive. And then he said to the audience, and I quote, "That's why you have Latin lovers." Same individual who got the Nobel Peace Prize, who I believe is related and connected to the guy who is now appointed CEO at the American Ancestors. But we're going to get deeper into it because we're not gonna allow them to just kill people off and or unalive people, okay, and not say anything, okay, not even try to figure things out. This guy who got this Nobel Peace Prize says Watson has repeatedly asserted that differences in average measured IQ between blacks and whites are due to genetics. In early October 2007, he was interviewed by Charlotte Hunt Grubbe, whatever, at Cold Springs Harbor Laboratory. He discussed his view that Africans are less intelligent than Westerners. Watson said his intention was to promote science, not racism, but some UK venues canceled his appearance and canceled the rest of his tour. He had said something, so I wanted to see if I could find it. Right here. He also said, all our social policies are based on the fact that their blacks' intelligence is the same as ours, whites, whereas all the testing says not really. People who have to deal with black employees find this not true. This is end quote. That's what he said. This is what this guy, who I believe is connected to, let's get all the way back up here to this individual. This guy here, okay, I believe is connected to make sure we're on the page, it's on the same page, to this. I believe he is connected to this New England Society, which is connected to this, the New England Society of New York, which is connected to this, the American Ancestors Society, which is connected to Harvard. Okay? When you go here, we're gonna see how even more this was connected. When you go here and you search this American Ancestor start date, this came up. I didn't even try to look for this. It came up when I searched American Ancestors. I want to reiterate that. New England Historical Genealogical Society. But then what else comes up? The Mayflower Society. I just read to you on the website here how they do what? Annual festivals commemorating the landing of pilgrims. Yeah. Okay. So when this comes up, Mayflower Society, when you search this, these three societies come up as well. This one caught my attention. I said, well, what is this all about? Okay. So we go over here and we search the Mayflower Society. The Mayflower Society, okay, is a society that provides education, understanding why the Mayflower Pilgrims were important, how they shaped Western civilization, and what their 1620 voyage means today and its impact on the world. The General Society of Mayflower Descendants is committed to research on the lineal descendant of the Mayflower Pilgrims and education about the Pilgrims, so on and so on. So this is basically a society that's designated to the lineage, the ancestors, the lineage of the people who were on the Mayflower. A hundred, there were 102 passengers on the Mayflower. There were 102 passengers on the Mayflower. And I think 50 might have survived if I'm guessing correctly. I think 50 might have survived. But this society is for the people who are the offspring in the bloodline of the people who were on the Mayflower. This is what the society does. Now, this society comes up when you're looking at the New England Society, right here. I just think that's interesting. I just think that that's interesting. So, in case we're not following, one second. In case we're not following, we associated American ancestors as we connect the fact that this beautiful woman went to Harvard. She was on that plane. In recent Harvard news, we find that the internal staff who was in charge of this $100 million initiative, we find that they were laid off and that the program, this initiative, was outsourced to someone else. We find that it's outsourced to American ancestors. We find that when we search American ancestors start its inception, we find that it's linked to the New England Historic Genealogical Society. We find that the CEO is Ryan J. Woods. We find that Ryan was elected an honorary life fellow and he was honored by the New England Society of the City of New England, or excuse me, the City of New York, founded in 1805. We find that that society has annual festivals to where they commemorate the landing of pilgrims. We find that when we look at the Mayflower and what happened with this whole Mayflower, well, back in 1620, the Pilgrims founded their first permanent European settlement in New England. You guys know that New England is America. It's like one of the states within America. Okay, just making sure because it says that the Europeans, their first settlement was in 1620 in New England, which is America. So the first American settlement from Europeans was in 1620. Okay. Now, when we look at the first settlers in New England were Indigenous people who lived there, who lived in the area for thousands of years before European colonization. Just as a side note, one of those, and I might be a little biased, but one of the tribes is Wampanoag. This is what Wampanoag people look like. This is what Wampanoag people look like. Okay? Okay. Just want to make sure we're clear. So this Mayflower organization is, for some reason, who knows why, I know why, but for some reason coming up in at the same time that when you search the New England Society, it comes up as well. The Mayflower Society comes up. It's interesting. It's interesting. And it just so happens that the Mayflower Society that comes up just also happens to be all about the Pilgrims, which would be the people who did the enslaving. And you're going to put them in charge of the people who are going to find the direct descendants. You think they're going to be honest about that? And you think that this beautiful woman being on that plane and this happening was just, yeah, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So what I wanted to show you guys as well, that's the Wampanoag people. I got so many tabs open, guys, because it just has been. So I wanted you guys to see some of that stuff, okay? This James Watson, we read how racist he is, okay? But they gave him a Nobel Peace Prize. Now, you remember I just showed you guys the Mayflower Society, right? I said, I knew there had to been a reason why this individual kept popping up when I was looking up the other James Watson that I showed you guys. Okay. When I was trying to figure it out, just doing some searching, guess what came up? Find it. Guess what came up? This obituary. This obituary. This obituary of someone by the name of James Will River Watson, 33 years old, passed last year in February. This came up. Funny how things work sometimes. But as you look through this obituary, this gentleman passed from cancer. He was born and raised in Texas. I want you guys to remember that as well. But if you look down here, it says that he was preceded by his father, James Bill Watson, okay? His paternal grandmother, William Watson, maternal grandparents, so on and so forth, right? I was looking up some of these names and it couldn't connect 100%, but then I saw this, Betty Watson. And when you look up Betty Watson, okay, when you look up Betty Watson, she was the sister, right here. She's the sister of James Watson, of that guy, of this James Watson. You see? All right, you guys following? So when I was trying to figure out why this James Watson, the one who's a racist, who they try to give all of the credit for DNA structure and all that type of stuff, try to give him all the credit. This racist guy who got the Nobel Peace Prize, he, when I was trying to figure out why he's coming up with the other James Watson, who is the founder of the New England Society, when you search that, it's connected to what? The American Ancestor Society and the Mayflower Society. We're going to find out why he came up. Here's why he came up. He kept coming up because it says right here, Betty Watson is his sister. This obituary came up for a reason so that I could make this connection and show you guys. So Betty Watson that's how we're going to confirm that this James Watson is connected to this person right here who passed. Now, why is this significant? Right here, Will was a member of the Mayflower Society. Okay. So it just so happens when you're searching this stuff, these people come up and they all happen to be affiliated with the Mayflower Society, the Pilgrims. Now, when we're talking about the Indigenous people of this land, this is where we need to be paying attention. This right here is where we need to be paying attention because absolutely not. And the fact that he was born and raised in Texas, I told you guys to remember that because if you go over here and look at this guy, born in what? Houston, Texas. Okay. Okay. So I find it very interesting. And then another thing I want to show you guys, when you go to, again, this guy, the owner, the CEO, this Ryan Woods guy, CEO of American Ancestors, who's now in charge of the finding those relatives of these enslaved people, right? He was honored by this committee, these people, okay? And they all about the Pilgrims, okay? And where was I just going with that? Hold on one second, guys. He's the one. So this guy who was an American founder, the CEO of the American Ancestors, right? Why he's so close to the New England Society of New York? When we go here to, I looked up John James Watson again, New England Society. Why is a picture of Ulysses Grant coming up with this guy James Watson? I want to show you guys that. Wanted to show you guys that too because see how they just be misleading people because now years and years down the line, if this stays like this, people is going to confuse. This is not even correct. So this is an AI overview. This is how you know AI is could never be better than natural intelligence. But anyway, because that's not this is not the guy. But they have this that's Ulysses S. Grant, I believe, or something like that. But when you go here, I wanted to say that guy, Ryan James Woods, Jay Woods or whatever, he was honored by this society, New England Society of New York. When you go to their website, this is their website, and you go to something called their timeline, their timeline, okay? It says New England Society events, okay? Historical events. 1805, James Watson, successful merchant and U.S. senator, is elected first NES president. Okay? They don't got no picture of him. I don't see why they wouldn't have a picture of their first president, but okay. Thomas Jefferson is president of the United States. Okay. What else is on their timeline? Harvard School founded. Why is the Harvard School being founded on the New England Society of New York's timeline? The same society that honored and awarded the Woods guy, that's the CEO of American Ancestors now. Why is Harvard Law School again coming up? Why is it on their timeline? And also Mississippi becoming the 20th state. Why is that on their timeline? Just some of the things the Ulysses S. Grant is on their timeline. Certain things right here is on their timeline that I think is quite interesting. You know what else is on their timeline? June 6th is the unveiling ceremony of the Pilgrim statue by sculptor John Quincy Adams Ward, a gift to New York from NES, erected at the East 72nd Street entrance to Central Park, which Central Park, by the way, was built over a shanty town, which was where natives were. Okay? So this organization came and propped up a statue of some pilgrims, the same one that is awarding and recognizing the guy who's the CEO now of American Ancestors. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen now for a second with the beautiful people. Okay, because this light, I know one thing, this light finna blind you, girl. I think that's all we really need to see right now at this point. Okay. As I delve into it a little bit more, I wanted to just go ahead and give that to the people of the light that are not too focused on the Super Bowl right now, that may want to be focused on some other things. I just wanted to give you guys something to think about. We have to be able to seek knowledge, process knowledge, understand knowledge, understand, overstand the knowledge by way of getting to the why. The why leads to wisdom, wisdom leads to action, action leads to creation and proper expression of oneself in the human experience. I bring all of this to the beautiful people of the light just as a way of opening your mind, open your eyes a little bit. Take a look at some of the stuff that I'm talking about. There is beautiful people who deserve our attention, our care. Maybe in caring, we'll find deeper understanding. Thus, we'll be able to make decisions and act more properly for the times. There's so much going on right now, beautiful people, that I want to share with you. I'm trying to get more. I'm trying to get as much content out to you guys as I can. But with things being so crucial and imperative right now, making these videos are not necessarily the number one priority. As for me, the number one priority is making sure that I'm tapped into the divine. But of course, immediately after is trying to be of assistance to the beautiful people of the light. So I hope that this video was helpful. And I hope that it allows someone out there to really think about this situation a little bit deeper. But what I will say is this to the Indigenous people, again, a PSA, again, a PSA, again, a PSA to the Indigenous people of this land. This moment in time has everything to do, a lot to do with the Great Mother, the Divine Feminine, and the Indigenous people of this land. Until next time, beautiful people, be safe. Take care. Ashe.